Hi, Carrie.
Hi, Josh.
How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good.
Good.
Since we've learned we got to keep this short and sweet,
Yeah,
I've at a loss for words on
I
what to
know.
talk about.
We can't banter. We don't know what to do
But
without the warm-up
how do you
banter.
banter only like for 10 seconds?
I know. I know.
You know?
Well, we can waste
But,
time filling it with
all right.
nothing too.
That's
So
true.
yeah.
So, anyways, we are going to talk about this type of therapy called restoration therapy, which is something I was real excited about, and I'm sure you were too, because when we started out doing betrayal trauma work, we started with using a lot of the work of Terry Hargrave. He was definitely one of the
Yes.
authors that kind of inspired us.
Yeah.
I think we saw him at a workshop or
Yep.
something and
Yep.
bought his book, Forgiving the Devil.
Oh yeah. Still
You know,
reference that a lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he, amongst a couple others, were highly influential, and restoration therapy is
Yep.
his baby,
Yes, it is.
basically.
Yeah.
So, and we have a restoration therapist here today as a guest, and we'll get into that in just a second. So,
Yep.
but we should probably introduce ourselves. My name is Josh Nichols. I am a licensed marital family therapist and a certified sex addiction therapist, and one of the hosts of this podcast. Who are you?
I know. I'm Carrie Geiger. I have the same letters that you just mentioned.
Yes.
I'm a licensed marital and family therapist, certified sex addiction therapist, working here doing this,
Yes.
and at our practice, Family Solutions Counseling.
Right. We learned recently we have to say that so
I
people
know.
don't think we're two just random people.
I
They
know.
decided to do a mental health podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, why are we
have
listening to
we
these
do
people?
have some credentials.
Right, yeah. We've been doing this a while.
Yeah.
But our plan is to start out just talking about, what's the big deal about restoration therapy, and then talking about attachment stuff is the way it's, it's
Attachment
written.
stuff. Yeah.
Because I believe that attachment theory is part of it. We're going to talk about pain cycles and peace cycles, which I really look forward to getting into that. And then just everyday restorations. Let me introduce our guests. Today we have with us Jacob Oliver. He's a licensed marital and family therapist and a certified sex addiction therapist, just like Carrie and I, but he's a little bit better than us.
He is. He has something else.
Right, because he is also a restoration therapist, and he was trained at Fuller Theological Seminary, I believe, directly under Terry Hargrave, which is really cool.
Yep.
And he's currently right here with us in private practice at Family
Yeah.
Solutions. So,
We lucked out.
Jacob, we're happy to have you here.
Yeah.
Yeah, good to be
I
here.
know.
Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah.
I'm glad we've talked about this since even before you started with us. Remember?
I do.
When we ran into each other in the gym.
Yeah, yeah. I saw you because I worked here when I was at Oklahoma Christian University, working in the front office here, doing my internship, and it was seeing you in the gym. It was like, I think that's him. I'm not quite sure, and so we ended up running into each other, and you were very interested when I brought up Terry Hargrave's name.
Yeah.
Well, also too, I remember being a little embarrassed too because you knew I did not recognize you, and he was very kind. He's like, I look a little different than I did in the past when you were here with us.
I lost some weight and lost some hair. Since
Well,
college.
some years passed.
A lot can happen in, what was it, 2017? So, a lot can happen in 8 years,
2017, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
To your body, to your head.
To your life, to your head, meaning hair.
Yeah. It's not happening to the hair, though. It's happening to the head.
It's true. That's true.
No question.
Oh my goodness.
Right. But yeah, that's right. You started out here as an undergraduate intern, and now you're rocking and rolling as a restoration therapist and other types of therapists.
Yeah.
So,
And if you're interested, Forgiving the Devil's a good book, but there's also, he has written other books on forgiveness that are in the 2000s. So there's Families in Forgiveness is another great book.
Families and Forgiveness, I'm going to have to get that.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And I know you're very fond of Terry Hargrave or Dr. Hargrave, and his wife is
Sharon.
Sharon. Do you want to real quickly just tell people about, how websites or information where they can find information about restoration therapy, or if you're a therapist watching this, like if you want to get trained in it, because you would have to go through them. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's a website, Restoration Therapy Training. I think it's .com, and you can find a lot of information about what restoration therapy is, and there's options to get trained in it. There's a level 1 and a level 2 training, and it just depends on supervision. There's also ways to find therapists if you're wanting, as a client, to find a restoration therapist. There's a search option there. And there's also coaching and different resources, psychoeducation resources on restoration therapy, integrating it into churches if you want pastors or small group leaders to have some of that information as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
Great.
Good.
I appreciate that. And I know there's probably, I think you said, I heard you earlier say that you're presenting on this, and that keeping this to 30 minutes might be quite difficult for you.
Yeah, I
Right.
always say I spent 9 months training with Terry, so I try to compress everything I learned in that time down to when I'm doing it with clients a 50-minute session. So 9 months worth of work in 50 minutes. So
Right.
it can be kind of like drinking out of a fire hose.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, just can you just give us, what it is in a nutshell to start out with, like, and what's the, kind of what's the big deal about it? How does it work?
Yeah, those are big questions. Like you mentioned, it's at its core, it's an attachment theory. So for the therapists listening, it's attachment theory based in Bowlby and Ainsworth work. But for the non-therapists, it basically means that we as restoration therapists believe that the way that we view ourselves, the way that we form our identity and our safety in relationships comes from the families of origin, so the primary caretakers growing up. And the big difference between restoration therapy and most attachment therapies is that it focuses primarily on self emotional regulation as opposed to co-regulation that you would see in EFT or something like that. And the two primary pillars of emotion, you might call them, there's another big change is that the things that we typically consider to be emotions, so anger, sadness, joy, I can see the basket of Inside Out characters over here,
Yeah.
are secondary. I think that those are things that we do, not necessarily things that we feel. So I don't feel angry, I act in a way that is angry. And so all of that comes from the two pillars of emotion that restoration therapy is built off of, which is love and trustworthiness. And so everything that we feel can be boiled down to, is it a violation of my identity, which is associated with love, or my safety, which is associated with trustworthiness? So if we're loved well in the families that we grow up in, we learn about ourselves, our identity, that we're good enough, that we belong, that we're welcome, that we're unique, that we're special, that we're worthy. And if we're raised in a safe, trustworthy environment, we learn that it's predictable and reliable. We learn that it's balanced and there's justice there, and it's safe enough for me to be open and honest about what I'm feeling, my internal experience. And it's when we feel violations of those things, if I feel like I'm not enough, like I'm not welcome, like I'm not worthy, like I'm unsafe, that's when we start seeing those reactionary emotions. And so if I feel like someone is treating me in a way where I don't feel good enough, I might get angry and blame them. I might be sarcastic or cutting. I might shame myself. I might be really hard on myself. I feel not good enough because I'm not good enough. And that's where you see a lot of the sadness and depression is in that category. More so on the safety side, we might see people getting more controlling. If I feel unsafe, if this feels like an unsafe situation for me, I might, there's overt ways of controlling, and I think you guys have probably seen those. It's a my way or the highway.
Right.
This is how we do things. There's also more covert ways of controlling. We see people pleasing in this category. I know for myself, it's kind of controlling to perform, or performing to control. And that is growing up. I was really good at school and sports, and all of that's trying to control people's perspective of me. And it also puts you in a really vulnerable place where sometimes you can't win the game. And so what does that mean about who I am?
Sure.
In the control category is also where we see anxiety popping up a lot. People who kind of stay in their head, ruminate, think through all the different possibilities. What could happen? How could it happen? How am I going to respond to that? And it's something that's really paralyzing and immobilizing as opposed to something that's action oriented. And then kind of the last category of reactivity. So there's blame, shame, control, and the last one is escape. And so it's a way of shutting down, getting away from the situation, and sometimes it's, I'm uncomfortable here, so I'm just going to leave. I'm sure you've heard of those where it's I just get in the car and drive for 3
Yeah.
hours.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes this is where stonewalling comes into place,
Okay.
where physically I'm going to stay present, but emotionally
Walk
I'm
out.
going to disengage. This is also where we see a lot of addiction. Anything that you would use that's an addictive substance, alcohol, drugs, pornography, sex, those are all things where I feel so uncomfortable or unsafe or hopeless in this situation, so I need to disconnect and numb that feeling. And so that's kind of the basic flow. You have love and trustworthiness at the top.
Okay.
When we feel violations of those things, we react in one of four different ways: blame, shame, control, and escape.
Blame, shame, control, and escape. Okay. That makes sense. I mean, you can see that. It's an interesting concept, though, to think of that this is a very systemic, meaning, there's all these parts connected, but it's in kind of an interpersonal system. It's kind of, it sounds like what this is highlighting, right?
Yeah. So obviously we don't exist completely isolated
Sure.
from the people around us, but our experience is something that, when we can understand it, it's not something that has to control us. It's really focused on empowerment and being able to make your own decisions based on things that are true and not just things that are painful. All four of those ways of coping with violations of primary emotions are damaging. There's some that are more acceptable. People pleasing might be more
People-pleasing, right.
acceptable than anger, but every single one of them is just as damaging, if not more than the other ones. And so it's damaging to ourself, our sense of identity, and the relationships that we're a part of. And it's what our brains are designed to do. It's a fight or flight
Right.
response.
Right.
Anytime we feel that violation, blame and control are fight responses, while shame and escape are flight
Flight
responses.
Okay. I think that's a good link to make. Yeah. Yeah.
So so when I first heard of restoration therapy, and this might be because of what we do for a living, my mind immediately went to couples, but it almost sounds like you can do restoration therapy with an individual. It seems like.
Yes. So it was originally designed as a couples modality.
Okay.
Terry, that was what he was focusing on when he was developing the model. Since then, it's really been expanded to include individuals. Sharon, she worked for a long time as the executive director at the Boone Center for the Family,
Right.
which is on Pepperdine University's campus in Malibu. And it's a research and resource center, but she developed a program called Relate Strong that is the psychoeducation piece of this. And so was adapted into a curriculum for students to go through, like an 8-session curriculum to work through. Individuals can do that, couples can do that. They've also developed that into the Relate Strong Leadership Series, that's the piece that's targeted towards pastors and small group leaders.
Okay.
And it goes in that one, you can go into specific categories like pornography, like addiction. I think it's self-care for leaders. There's an anxiety one, so things that are targeting specific
Okay.
things that, again, small group leaders, pastors can bring into their churches. I've also, the last few years, been part of a program that they're trying to adapt the model to an intensive weekend
yeah.
targeting anxiety for individuals. And so it did start as a couples modality, but has really been expanding, and we've been trying a lot more stuff since then.
Oh, that's really
Sounds
cool.
fun to do that. I mean, you know what I mean? To take those
Yeah.
ideas and adjust them.
I think it's one of those things that when I heard it, it just felt very true, and it felt like this is the way that things work.
Okay.
And I know there's a lot of different. I'm sure everyone who has their modality says the same thing, but it was. What I tell my clients is conceptually it's very simple and it just makes sense, but in practice it can be difficult because
Okay.
we're changing a lot of those patterns that
Right.
we've gotten into
Right.
over and over again.
Yeah. So what are the patterns then? Jacob, right into it, right?
Yeah. So the pain cycles and peace cycles.
Yes.
So usually there are those violations of love and trustworthiness. I have found, again, you can boil it down, both of them, to either feeling unloved or unsafe.
Okay.
But we have different words for what that actually feels like, which is why I call them more pillars than actual this is the thing. Because I know for me, in my pain cycle, it's I'm more prone to feeling unwanted, feeling alone, feeling out of control. And so those are the things I have to be on watch for. So most people, a pain cycle, very simply, is, for an individual,
Okay, for an individual.
is what I feel,
Okay.
how I react to what I feel, and how people react to how I react.
Okay.
And then how that influences how I feel.
Okay.
And so I might feel out of control. And when I feel out of control, I try to control by performing.
Okay.
So I'm going to work my way out of this. I'm going to be better, and that typically will isolate me from other people. So what impact does that have on my behavior? Then when I feel isolated from people, I feel unwanted, and so I might shame myself.
Okay.
And so that's the pattern that when you're starting in therapy, you want to map out
Okay.
right away.
Okay.
Is get that down within a few sessions, starting to get your clients to see the world in that way. And usually in the what I feel, it can be boiled down to 3 to 5 things that we feel pretty consistently that were learned in childhood.
Okay.
Even if you have perfect parents, they're going to drop the ball sometimes. They have their own lives. They have
sure.
stress in their relationship. They have stress at work. There's just things maybe they're not aware of that you're feeling and
Sure.
don't respond in a good way. And we start to get those messages about identity and safety, who I am and am I safe. And as a kid, you don't have the cognitive function to be able to make the right decision. So it's more likely to be fight or flight.
Right.
And so, and sometimes as a kid, it quote unquote works. I see mom and dad fighting. I feel unsafe. I go to my room and play with my Legos or whatever. And for a kid, it's like the discomfort I was feeling, I'm no longer
right.
feeling. And now next time I feel uncomfortable, I'm more likely to go to a fantasy.
Right.
And we can kind of see that starting to develop throughout development and then into adulthood if we don't ever intentionally do something different. Our
Right.
brains are either efficient or lazy, however you want to.
Both.
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Efficiently lazy.
And so this worked last time, I'm going to do it again.
Right.
I'm just going to automatically do it. And so we get into these pain cycles, and again, it's identifying that. That alone can be really freeing for a lot of
yeah.
clients of like, yes, that is what I do.
Right.
So in a pain cycle, is that when people feel dysregulated, maybe?
Yeah. So we would call that, when you're in your pain cycle, you're emotionally dysregulated.
Okay.
And like you're saying, it's pretty much, it doesn't really matter to me if you're in talking about your marriage, with your kids, with your friends, at work, the severity of the reaction might be a little bit different based on the violation of love and trustworthiness, but the pattern is going to look very similar. So I might be a little bit more passive aggressive at work and overtly aggressive at home. And so it's still, I'm reacting to this message of not being good enough or unwanted with this reaction, but the severity of it might look different.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then, does the peace cycle already exist, or is that created?
Yeah, it's an interesting way to phrase the question. So restoration therapy is broken down into 4 phases.
Okay.
And the first phase is identifying a pain cycle. Like we say, you got to name it to tame it.
Yep.
So we
Right.
have to know what's happening. Then in the second phase, even though restoration therapy is an attachment model at its core, it incorporates a lot of experiential
Okay.
therapy and also contextual therapy.
Okay.
And so the second phase is going through kind of the experiential work, is working through those painful messages that we've been receiving over and over again and identifying what we call the truth. These things that we feel that are painful, that we react to, aren't true about who we are. They aren't true about the relationships that we're in. It's not true that I'm unwanted.
Right.
It's not
Right.
true that I'm fully out of control. It's not true that I'm alone. And so going through that experiential work, it's more than just pointing out those things aren't true.
Right,
We don't typically have life-changing experiences from people just telling us
That's not
those
true,
things.
right.
So it's stuff in the room. There's different exercises that we can do. There's specific ones that I use, but you can also take a client's metaphor
Oh,
and make
yeah.
it real. How do I make that real in the room? If it feels crushing, let's throw some pillows on you. If it feels like I'm stuck in the corner, I'm going to put you in a corner. And working through how do I get out of this space, and in that identifying what is the truth about who I am, about the two pillars. What's the truth about who I am, and what's the truth about my degree of safety.
Safety.
And once we can identify that, we go into the third phase, which is the peace cycle. And it's the opposite of the pain cycle. It's at the top, instead of what I feel, it's what's the truth
Okay.
about who I am and about relationships. There's a new action. If these things are true,
Then.
how would I interact with the world? And what impact does that typically have on my relationships?
Okay.
And so we also, in both situations, want to know how are we impacting and influencing the world and the relationships that we're in. So that can be more of an academic exercise, is putting the peace cycle together, and it's a entry point into the fourth phase of restoration therapy, which, if you ask Terry, he says this is what it's all about. This is why we do the work that we do. It's not a very creative name. It's called the 4 steps, and it has 4 steps.
Okay.
And what we're trying to do is, in the first phase, or the first step, you want to, this is all said out loud. If you can do it out loud, say it out loud. You say what you feel.
Okay.
You say what you normally do. You say the truth, and then you say what you're going to do instead. So I feel alone. When I feel alone, I typically isolate, or shut down, or I numb. An important thing between steps 2 and 3 is it's an and, not a but, is
Okay.
what I tell my clients. I don't want to discount what I'm feeling. I don't want to deny what I'm feeling
Sure.
because the truth is true. I want to be able to hold both.
Yes.
So I
okay.
know that I'm feeling alone, and I know the truth is that I'm not.
Okay. Yeah.
And so in that space, then you can make a different decision. I feel alone where I would typically isolate, which is only going to exacerbate the issue.
Right.
I am going to reach out to somebody. I can reach out to somebody and put some plans
Okay.
together.
Okay.
Or I can take care of myself. I can be there for me. So that's that process of regulating the dysregulated emotion, is going through. It's a mindful activity. That transition from steps 2 to 3 can be a challenging one. So you learn the breathing exercises.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
might return back to some of the experiential work that
Yeah,
we've done,
yeah.
and allow that feeling to the pain to dissipate and the truth to settle in, so I can make a decision that's grounded in truth instead of reacting to the pain that I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
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 So it's you take 3 steps to get to the 4th step that also has 4 more steps.
Yeah, there's 3 phases, or excuse me, there's 4
There's 4
phases,
phases
and the
and the
four
4th phase
steps.
takes you to the
By the
4
way,
steps.
that's just another word for step. Because it sounds like that in getting out of the pain cycle, it's recognizing that there's a lot of messages that were born from childhood experiences that you're just kind of operating under and holding on to. This means this and this means that, and it's like it doesn't mean that. And I think in some of like Karn's work, they call it like the truth I fear.
Yeah.
I'm afraid this thing is true. Then it gets validated as true, but it's still not true. We're afraid it is. But then kind of entering into our peace cycle. But this is one of the things that's been challenging for me, not just from this point of view, like from a restoration therapy, but in a lot of different therapy models, or just the human experience in general. And this was really challenged when I read the book, The Untethered Soul. I don't know if you've ever read that book. That really kind of challenges, he kind of presents the idea that all our problems are within us. Because if you have a problem with something that's coming from within, but that doesn't, it's that challenge. Does that mean we aren't supposed to ever have a problem? Or from what you're talking about, like if you're in your peace cycle, Like does that mean that your partner can't hurt you? Or does that mean you can't feel pain if you're in your peace cycle at all? Like that there's no that those emotions or those experiences mean you're dysregulated, or can those emotions and experiences mean something else from a healthier functional point of view? I don't know. I just want to know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I have clients that come in and we've been working on the 4 steps, and they say, well, I'm still feeling these things, so it must not be working.
It's not working,
And it's
yeah.
that's I tell them it's not the point. The point is not, these feelings are going to come up. That's just the way that life works. It's the way our brain works. Those feelings don't have to control your behavior. And so you get some freedom from that. I get this from clients a lot. I have to correct this terminology a lot. People say, well, she makes me so angry.
Sure.
Or this happened and it made me really sad. And I do tell people, I go, they can't make you feel anything. We only have control over 3 things in our life, and it's what we think, what we feel, and what we do. Other than that, we're having to respond to the world around us. So no one can force me to feel not good enough. No one can force me to feel those things. Those are things that I feel myself. So there is that aspect of it.
But you're not forcing yourself either to feel it. It's just happening to you.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And being able to accept responsibility for that is uncomfortable, but it also provides that freedom to choose something different, that I get to choose what I'm feeling. And you see, I mean, people do this all the time. You're feeling anxious, you go for a walk. Why do you do that? Because you're trying to take control of what you're feeling.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that if you're in a relationship with someone that you can just accept that everything they do is acceptable.
Right.
But how am I going to engage with that? So if I am Josh, you and I are in a relationship. You do something and I feel not good enough. If my typical reaction is to shut down, then that's never going to be addressed. Or if my typical reaction is to get angry, then that's not going to be helpful for the situation either. But if I can recognize I don't feel good enough, so I'll walk through it. 4 steps. Okay. I don't feel good enough. Usually when I feel not good enough, I get angry and I lash out. And the truth is that I am good enough, that I'm worthy and I'm wanted. Because of that, I can come to you and address that. I can advocate for myself, but I don't have to throw gasoline onto the fire. Okay. I can bring these things out in a calm, productive way. Right. And so those issues can still be addressed in the relationship. It's not, oh, I'm never going to bring anything to you because I can fix it all myself. There's still the point of the 4 steps, hopefully, is I can step into and engage in relationship and community in a more regulated and productive way.
Right. So how do you do this with couples when because you've got a lot of patterns and cycles going on, right? Yeah. I was just thinking when you asked that question that if you have an individual doing this work and they're going back to their family or their partner and they're really working on this, that if the other one's not quite aware of what the therapy is working on, right, that in a lot of ways there's be a need for a lot of explanation about this is what I'm trying to do and this is what this is all about and how helpful it would be if you're both in some kind of work and if you both understand the restoration model, right, and to be able to have that awareness of, oh, wait, we've got all these patterns going on, right? Our individual work and the stuff between us. I could just see how that you would probably be, the work would be effective, I guess, and maybe even more quickly.
Yeah, well, and it's really amazing to do the work with couples in the room going through this because the pain cycle also looks different.
Yeah.
When I'm mapping out a couple's pain cycle in the room, it's how partner A feels, how they react, how partner B feels, and how they react, and how now it's a 4-quadrant pain cycle, and they can see that pattern. It's like most of the time I write it out and they go, yeah, that's what we've been doing for 15 years. And again, just being able to name it is a big piece of it, just the recognition. Usually there's 3 different ways to self-regulate or just regulate emotions in general. There's labeling, there's distraction, and there's reframing. Those are kind of the big three buckets of how do you regulate. And the 4 steps gives you all of them. You get to name what you're feeling. You get to you're distracted because you're focusing your energy on something else, and you're reframing it in light of the truth as opposed to pain. And so then being able to see them, well, with couples, a lot of times it's, oh, I had no idea you felt that way.
Right.
I only ever saw the anger. I didn't see that behind that was feeling inadequate.
Right.
So a new understanding there helps with some of the compassion, but then being able to have the other person there, especially during like the experiential exercises of seeing them experience the truth for the first time and who knows how long, can be a really powerful experience too. Because the truth can be a challenging thing to access. We don't have a lot of practice accessing the truth. And so there's 3 different resources you can pull truth from. If the person you're working with has any spiritual resources. So if they're Christian, what does the Bible say about who you are? What does God say about who you are? There's trusted others. So if you were to ask people that you really trust, who really know you, what would they say about you? And the third one is yourself. Can I get truth from myself? And that, to be honest, is the only one that really matters. I'm a textbook shamer, so I'm really hard on myself. I always say that, if I'm in an inconsolable shame spiral, I could have 100 people that know me well in a line telling me how good I am, that I'm good enough, that I'm worthy, and I can say thank you and discount they don't really know or they don't know this reason. And in that space, I'm sure I could be full of myself enough to where if God, the creator of the universe, was at the end of that line and told me those same things, I would find a way to discount that of, well, you say that to everyone, so that doesn't make me special. And so it's those first 2 resources can be really helpful in informing what could it be. But until we can take it on ourselves, and which is where the experiential work comes in. Until we can experience it ourselves, until we can confidently say it to ourselves, it doesn't have that impact of emotional regulation.
Yeah, and I think just see this echoed so much in betrayal trauma recovery. What you're talking about, and how powerful it is for both people, the one who's been betrayed and the one who acted out, to be able to, find the truth about themselves, right? And that also creates this beautiful opportunity to create some almost healthy distance from the trauma that happened, right? And so hearing you talk about it, I'm just thinking about how you really do that with partners and how you would do that. But of course, you can do it with both, right?
Right, because that betrayal in relationships destroys
the trustworthiness and safety.
And it's really, that's what I've been noticing working with this population, is that if you're together for 20 years, you have 20 years of love built up with this person, and now all of a sudden 0 safety, maybe even less than 0. And so that's a really confusing thing to be holding on to. That's what I see in partners most, is it just doesn't make sense why I feel the way that I do. Like, why do I still care about him so much? It's, well, because love is not touched in that
that's a good perspective.
Trustworthiness is absolutely demolished. So how can you have that much love for one person and not trust them at all?
That's a really interesting,
challenging thing to hold. And so we do have to focus primarily in betrayal recovery on how do we build trust. We can leave the love alone for a while. How do we build up the trustworthiness? But then to have some of that agency for betrayed partners of, I'm not at the whim of this person to feel safe. I can create my own safety.
Right. Yeah, I really like how you say that. That's really good.
And it's also, too, I can see how it can be confusing in the sense that for the person who's been betrayed, where trustworthiness has been destroyed, as you said, that to the person who's been betrayed, it's all about love. Like, do you, like, did I not love you enough for you to be faithful? Did you, or how come you couldn't love me enough to stay faithful?
Right. So they're not feeling enough. So they're saying, was it you, blaming? Was it you, or what's wrong with you, or it's the shame? What's wrong with me?
There you go. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it comes down to love not really being touched. It's the trustworthiness still.
Yeah. That's a good
That's
model.
I like that. It's really interesting.
I think that gives people permission to acknowledge the love, because I think betrayed partners are going, why do I love this person, and how could someone who loves me do this, right? Those are the most common questions. And to just say, let's leave, the love is there, let's look over here. I think that could be really
Right.
freeing for some people.
Right. Well, and that's, you take apart the co-regulation piece and recognize that, we do these in disclosures and things like this, where the betraying partner will recognize this is something that's been going on for a long time. Like, ever since I was young, using the example from earlier, is my parents would fight, I'd be afraid, and I'd play with Legos. Right there, my brain associated fear, not knowing what to do, with escaping into
Yeah,
fantasy.
yeah, yeah.
And so that kind of evolves as you get older and older, and it might turn into something that's more explicit. And it's something that existed for a long time before that, something they brought into the relationship that they got very good at hiding over years and years of practice.
Sure.
And it's their inability to regulate their emotions that has led to the acting out. And so it allows us to take responsibility for that, put
Yeah.
responsibility where it belongs. And there's also then some hope of, well, it's not my job for either of them to regulate the other person's emotions. They need to
Yeah.
figure out how to do that for
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah, that's some good work.
Can partners still be helpers in that? Did they talk about that in restoration therapy? Like, or is it like, because that's something we talk about in betrayal trauma, is like, like you could get hit by a drunk driver, and that's very unfair. And when you were just being a good driver, and then out of nowhere your life has changed, and but as unfair as it is, you still have to take responsibility for your healing if you're going to heal. Um, where it's different with betrayal trauma is that it offers a couple different challenging components. Is that the partner is the drunk driver, right? And so that's kind of like where Michelle Mays' book, The Betrayal Bind, kind of comes in, and that double bind that partners are in. But does restoration therapy allow for, like, hey, the partner isn't responsible. The partner might have some ownership in what has created the injury. And when it comes to infidelity, we say all of it.
Right.
No one made them do it. But the partners still have to own their healing. But we will say you still have a part in that. Like.
Right. So again, the primary injury is to trustworthiness and safety. And one aspect I said at the very beginning is balance and justice. That's how we assess trustworthiness in a relationship. Generally speaking, you have to act in a way that's trustworthy 9 out of 10 times to be considered trustworthy. And that sounds like a lot, but if you were going to a dry cleaner and the 10th time they always lost your shirts or shrunk something, you'd probably find a different dry cleaner.
True.
So in a relationship, typically there is a balance of a little bit more. I'm going to carry a little bit more. You'll carry a little bit more, and I'm okay when it dips and I have to carry more, because I trust the relationship enough to be able to even out. If I needed it, it would go the other way.
True, yeah.
So if I have too much at work or have an injury or whatever, and some of the extra domestic duties fall on the other person, we can both be okay with that. We know it's short term, and we trust the relationship to balance out over time. When there's an affair or some type of betrayal, it shifts that balance immediately.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, one person is in a relationship that they didn't agree to. That this relationship is not what it was when we got together, and we both said it was going to be this, and you made a unilateral decision to completely change the dynamic of the relationship. The only way to bring balance in a situation like that, if you see someone walking on a tightrope, if they dip one way, they have to dip the other way.
Right.
So we have to swap the roles for a while. One person, and the betraying partner, has to take the one down position, and the betrayed partner gets the one up position. That's why they get to set the boundaries, and here's what I'm okay with, here's what I need to see in your recovery. And typically in a relationship, we wouldn't be okay with that. But in this situation, we have to be here so that we can find a way back to the middle again.
I think that's so important. And I think that's where people get stuck so often. And that's why I think having, a skilled, treatment provider that understands like those concepts that you're talking about. I really think that makes such a difference in how people heal and recover.
Yeah.
Because it is an injustice, right? And to just be flat and clear, yet it sure is. And here's how we're going to flip it for a little while, right? To achieve some more balance.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that answers your question about, yeah, it is, there's a balance even in that of how do I do need to take responsibility for my own healing, but I also shouldn't be expected to trust someone who hasn't shown themselves to be trustworthy. That's part of me. That's part of my healing. Is
Yes.
I'm not going to, with safety, I'm not going to say all relationships are safe. I can give myself fully to all of them.
Right.
It's relationships. My pain is at feeling out of control. That when I'm feeling out of control, that's when I perform. My truth that I speak into that is, even though it's a complicated truth. I've worked on this. If you work with a restoration therapist, they can get you something that can pinpoint your pain. My truth is that even though there are things out of control, it doesn't mean that I'm out of control. And so it's the same thing with relationships. If I feel like relationships aren't safe, if I feel unsafe in relationships, the truth is there are unsafe relationships
Sure,
out there.
sure.
You are also capable of discerning what relationships can you be a part of.
Okay.
And so you can't just go straight to, I'm going to choose to trust this person. It's I want to trust this person, and here are the things that I would need to see to be able to trust you again.
Yeah.
And so there is that back and forth. I still have to regulate to be able to make that decision, but this other person has to be able to contribute to the relationship in a way that they haven't before to build trustworthiness.
Yeah.
And that's done one brick at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Man,
Well, man, that's really good.
that's really good. I feel like we could get in more weeds.
Yes.
I'm like trying to pull myself
have to
back.
come
Yeah,
back.
maybe
You
maybe
will,
maybe we can come
for
back
sure.
in like we can pick like a nuanced
Yes.
topic that we can weave restoration therapy in or something like
Yeah.
that. So that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
But man, I
too.
really appreciate you giving us that
Yeah.
overview. I mean, I really honestly didn't know all that. It sounds really cool.
Yeah, you
really
did a good job
interesting.
sharing it.
Yeah.
I know that was hard to summarize.
Yeah, hopefully
Yeah.
it was coherent. I can feel myself
Yeah.
trying to bounce and not get too
Yeah,
deep
it's
into
hard.
a
Your
topic.
brain has to pull
Well,
back, right? Yeah.
Well,
I'll also say I plugged the website. You could probably find this on the website. If you're a couple, a faith-based couple that's interested in going through that process, they just came out with a book at the beginning of this year. Ron and Nan Deal are the primary authors on it, and Terry and Sharon helped as well, called The Mindful Marriage. And it's a
Okay.
book that takes you through, it's a reading and workbook put together that takes you through how do we put together our pain cycle and how do we,
Yeah.
even if you're not faith-based,
Right.
you can ignore all the
It's
scriptures
Ron
that are
Deal.
thrown
I
in.
mean, he's from Oklahoma, Oklahoma City, isn't he?
Yeah, he went to
Yeah.
Oklahoma Christian.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, he's a successful step families guy.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah,
you're
yeah,
right.
yeah. Sure.
So he worked with Terry, and they put together a book for couples
Yeah.
to understand all of this stuff. It goes into a little bit more depth and helps you get through pain cycle, some experiential work, peace cycle, and 4
Right.
steps.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and that's
put
the
that, yeah.
beauty about like this podcast is like we're trying. We'll put those, like, we don't have to cover everything. We'll try to put some links.
Yep.
And if you have any, like any brief reads, like blogs, articles, or something, you can send over to me. I can add those in. But I'm sure Terry's really, grateful that you plugged his stuff. But can you? I think I saw you have a website. So anybody? Oh, you don't. Okay.
Nope.
I was Googling you while I was preparing for this.
I mean, I think
and
I
was
probably
like,
have like a Psychology Today profile.
well, I will link your profile here for people to find you.
Okay.
But also, I'm sure there's a therapist directory that Terry has probably
Yeah, he said
created
he
for.
did.
Okay. Oh, that's what. Okay,
That's the restoration
The
therapy
restoration
training
therapy.
website
Okay,
will
gotcha.
have a directory for. I think they try to keep that fairly updated.
Right. So people can find a restoration therapist near them. if
And they're all
they-
over the
right.
country.
Okay.
There's
Good.
big hubs in California.
Yeah.
We're going to try to start a hub here, maybe in
Is
Oklahoma.
it just you right now?
There's me and there's a guy who works in OKC that also.
Okay.
He was with Terry at the very beginning.
Gotcha.
Texas, there's a big hub in Amarillo. I think people in Connecticut, down in Atlanta. The Pacific Northwest, there's kind of a surgence right now happening. So yeah, there's options all over the
Yeah,
place.
that's
Good.
awesome.
That is good.
Well, we appreciate you coming.
Yeah.
Appreciate any the viewers that watch this, and hopefully that you're getting something out of it. I guess if you're returning, then you are. But again, just remind everybody to follow us. Give us a 5-star review if you're listening to this on your podcast platforms, and punch any button or whatever platform you're on that helps the algorithms. Is what I always tell people to do. Like if it's a button, they probably want you to hit it. Like, follow, subscribe, whatever.
Yeah.
But we will see you back next time.